I recently made a video on why I think that the Vanguard VOO ETF is the best ETF out there, and I got a lot of questions from you guys asking me why I picked VOO over VTI. So what I'm going to do in this video is actually go over VTI for you guys, kind of look at that ETF more in depth, and then actually go and compare VOO versus VTI to figure out once and for all which is the better ETF. And just a reminder, if you're brand new here, hit that subscribe button down below to join the community. And whether you're a fan of VOO or VTF, drop a huge like on this video to show your support as well. So if you want a full breakdown on VOO itself, pause this video right here and check out this link up here in the cards, and that'll take you to my video that I created recently on VOO. But in a nutshell, VOO tracks the S&P 500. VTI, on the other hand, is different. The name of the VTI fund is actually the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. And the name may be a bit misleading because this kind of implies that it contains every stock out there in the entire world. But no, really, this is only the US stock market. It contains all the stocks in the US stock market. More specifically, this ETF actually tracks the performance of CRSP, which is just another index out there. The fund is actually comprised of small, medium, and large cap companies, so you get a good exposure to pretty much every single company out there in the US and pretty much every single sector as well. They also offer a very low expense ratio here as well, 0.04%, some of the lowest in the industry actually. And of course, they offer you exposure to tons of companies like we talked about, all of the US companies, 3,573 companies to be exact. So now that you have the rundown of VTI, you may be wondering, okay, let's compare the differences between VOO and VTI, and let's figure out which one is the better investment really. So I made this chart on the screen here which compares the two side by side, and as you can see right off the bat, the big advantage that VTI has over VOO is the price per share is cheaper. So if you have a lower amount of capital, this may be better or in some cases the only option for you. MERs on the other hand are pretty much comparable with both at 0.04%. The number of stocks obviously differs. VOO has 509 stocks, VTI has 3,573 stocks. And really I would say at this point is where your personal preference comes into play. I personally think that exposure to the S&P 500 is more than enough diversification as it contains the 500 largest companies in America. But if you feel that you're more comfortable holding 3,500 plus companies for more diversity, that's totally cool too. To each their own. I wouldn't really say there's any wrong answer here. And then the last thing I really want to compare is the dividend yield, which the VOO has 1.52% yield and VTI has a bit higher 1.79% yield. So VTI has a slight edge here, and over time this may actually make a big difference depending on the performance of each ETF, of course. So based on the information and the data you've seen already, you may already have picked a favorite and you may already have a preference between VOO and VTI. But really what we're here for is one thing, and that's to see the performance of both of these indexes over a range of time periods. So year to date, VTI does have the win here, coming in at 16.63% versus VOO's 16.20%. On a little longer time period though, this changes with the 1 year performance of VTI coming in at 3.99%, but VOO beats it here with a 4.57% yield. On an even longer time frame here at 5 years, VOO again comes out on top with 52.94% gain versus VTI's 50.24% gain. And finally, if you go and compare both these companies from the inception of this index ETF, which is September 2010 after the recession, we can see that the gap is closed off again with VTI coming in at 151.75% returns and VOO with 151.40% returns. So based on this data, you can see that pretty much over the long term, they're more or less the same when it comes to the returns. In the short term, VOO does seem to have the better edge here over VTI. However, I do believe that most investors looking to invest in either of these ETFs are looking for the long term, and you're probably going to want to hold this for 10, 20, 30 years or more. And if that's the case, it really doesn't matter from a performance standpoint, at least in the data we have right now, as to which one you pick. Obviously, looking at this data, the dividend yield with the VTI would have probably returned you better gains over the same time period because you are getting more dividends from that. So indirectly, based on the data we have, VTI is technically the winner. However, that's just past data, and the key thing you need to ask yourself when looking at this investment for the future is, do you think that large cap companies right now, these large blue chip companies, will they perform better than the medium cap or small cap companies over the next 10 or 20 years? And the reason I say this is because when you compare the top 10 holdings from each of these ETFs, you can see that VOO has a large weight on the top 10, coming in at 21.80% of the overall weight, whereas VTI's top 10 is at 17.90% of the overall weight. So what I would say is that if you believe in these 10 names that you see on your screen right now, and you think that these 10 names will continue doing well and will continue outperforming the majority of smaller companies out there, VOO may be the better investment over the next 10-20 years or so. And really the reason is because these companies have a pretty large weight in both of these two ETFs. So now I present the question to you, VTI or VOO? Let me know in the comments section down below. And if you think this video would be useful for a friend who's trying to decide what ETF to invest in for the long term, share this video with them and help them achieve financial freedom for the future as well. And of course, if you haven't checked out my video on VOO yet, what are you waiting for? Click on the video right here to check that out. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate the support. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.